Finally, so I am here to discuss my next case in what really happened to Agere when she moved to Lebanon to work for the Najwa family. Allegedly, this is what took place. Hey guys, it's Murad Murali. Hope you guys are doing well today. If you haven't already, click that button for daily and consistent content. Head over to my Instagram, Murad_Murali. Subscribe to the channel, please. Subscribe to my podcast, and then let's get into this video. So let's get into these particular individuals. The family. Who are the Toch family? We have Najwa Hussein Toch, who was a supervisor at the local Spinneys when she's not torturing Agere. We have Raymond Toch, a businessman in the business of not paying his domestic worker. They also have a child called Stephanie Toch. Stephanie is very close to her mom and seems completely unbothered by the torture, which generally happens. Kids don't really care. She doesn't look like a child, to be honest. And then we have the bakery, which is called the Bashare Bakery. As owners of the bakery, they must have her food leftovers at the end of the day, but they wouldn't even give it to her. Another day looking into this, and from what I can see, there were times where she would question, what is going on? Where are my payments? I want to know. And in reaction, unfortunately, she was pushed down the stairs on purpose in a way that massively harmed her physical health, not only psychological but physical health as well. The more I look into this, the more deep and sinister it gets, that I'm trying to give you this kind of every other day basis when it comes to this horror story. Pills are really irking my brain because she has already admitted that the pills weren't helping her in terms of her deteriorating health. The pills were not helping her. So what were the pills doing? What were the intention behind giving this young girl pills? Trying to drug her, control her biologically, within her body. This to me is very confusing. As I dive deeper into this case, because there's more I dive deeper into and do research, I feel like I want to just make these little clips as a process on the way before I actually sit down and discuss it. These people who did whatever they did, allegedly, whatever, haven't even been charged. There hasn't even been a discussion with the police. Nothing. So this is why people need to do stuff like this, raise awareness, go into cases, look into them, find out what is going on, to raise some kind of just discussion, because it seems like these people are really just getting away with literal murder, and it's just really unfair. And the more I look into this, case, for those of you who do know, I've started doing these. I did one, I think, roughly a month ago in reference to another very similar case in a domestic worker who left her country to work somewhere else, especially in the Middle East. This is where things take place. Being somebody who also has a Middle Eastern background, I do feel like there is some kind of, not responsibility, but I feel like I do these videos and I have a natural interest to find out what is really going on. But it took me a week or so to do my research when it comes to stuff like this, because you really need to draw out all of the factual information for what really took place. And a quick trigger warning for anybody who might be affected. This is going to be some intense information, so a quick trigger warning indeed. Sorry. We have Najwa and Raymond Toch. Najwa and Raymond Toch are the family, and Agere Mandefrot is a 17-year-old Ethiopian girl who moved from Ethiopia to Lebanon to work, to find some money to help her family back in Ethiopia, which is the general reoccurring theme for a lot of these domestic workers. And Agere, she was only a teenager when she left her hometown in rural Ethiopia in search of a stable income to help her family. Her death, unfortunately, last year, aged only 17. But how did she pass away and what really took place is what we need to get into. It's a heartbreaking account, and unfortunately it seems to be a Lebanese couple who allegedly exploited this young, vulnerable girl. The keyword is young, because she was only 17, taking advantage of the fact that her impoverished Ethiopian family had no one to turn to for help. Agere was obviously from a particular town called Dejen and was the eldest of her 4 children, I believe. Her mother was a labourer, and her mother only realised of her daughter's intentions to travel to Lebanon when the application process was completed. So her mother didn't know that this was going on. She kept this hidden from her mother until the process was completed. I didn't want her to go, the mother says, but she told me she'd earn money so I wouldn't have to work so hard. In May 2017, Agere arrived in Lebanon to follow in the footsteps of approximately 300,000 of her fellow Ethiopians already working as domestic workers in the country. Her passport listed her as being about 3 years older than her actual age. Agere found work in the home of Raymond and Najwa Toch. They resided in a particular town in northeast Lebanon. Raymond was a businessman and the Toch family had a bakery. Interesting. Tawk also worked as a supervisor at a branch of a grocery store. But this is exactly what's happened. The Tawk family, what they did was they overworked Agere. underfed her, and given no days off. Agere endured, believing that the money she was earning would make a difference for her family, and thus be worthy of the hardship she endured. But Agere's family state that after the third month, the Talks stopped paying her for her work, as I said, in one of these clips previously. And this is where things began to spiral downwards for her, because, she pestered her employers saying, when am I going to get paid? Because I'm working here. After 3 months, the payment stopped. So what's going on here? This isn't what's meant to be happening, because I have a family to survive for. The kafala system, which is a system back in Lebanon, enabled the couple to rob the domestic worker of her rights to a salary and also medical treatment. Over the course of the next year, the key word here is medical treatment, guys. Please understand this. Over the course of the next year, Agere was forced to work tirelessly day and night. She would clean the whole house several times a day to force her to abide by this cruel, endless routine. Najwa would regularly actually threaten and beat Agere as well, allegedly. Agere would often pass out from exhaustion or a lack of food. When this started happening with increased regularity, the Talks would administer pills, which were likely painkillers. Agere would later tell her mother that she believed the pills weakened her. The pills had absolutely no effect on her health. Sleep and food deprivation rendered a once healthy, active girl, who her mother says once sought to do more exercise to lose weight, to a shadow of her former self. Raymond and Najwa Toch had children of their own, but the child they employed as a domestic worker was enslaved and forced to live in horrific conditions. They did everything they could to force her to submit. One day, when Agere built up the courage to go and ask, the Talks to let her leave, they became enraged. Najwa reacted by pushing this young 17-year-old girl down the freaking stairs, administering more beatings and telling her that she would never leave. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, astaghfirullah wal azim. This is just wow. In October 2018, after a year and a half of enduring her torturous existence, a year and a half, Agere was no longer able to move. Both of her legs were swollen. She would regularly cough blood and had problems staying conscious. She was actually near death. The Talks were worried about what would happen if word got out, bundled her onto a flight and sent her back to Ethiopia, where she was met at Addis Ababa. Her family members, who had sent a young, vibrant, beautiful girl off to Lebanon, were stunned and grief-stricken when they met Agere at the airport, dying, weakened and wheelchair bound. The girl, who would balance her, help mother out with chores, studying for night classes, while secretly facilitating her departure from Ethiopia, was rendered lifeless and incapacitated by her year and a half. Her family realized that she needed immediate medical attention, took her to Addis Ababa hospital. Agere spent 3 days at the hospital. There she told her mother everything that happened. On Agere's third day of hospitalization, she unfortunately passed away. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. Doctors discovered that she had blood cancer in her system, amongst other illnesses. If the Talks had sought medical assistance for Agere, she would have probably been alive. Instead, they enslaved her. Brutal treatment of domestic workers is far from a new phenomenon. As in the norm of cases involving the mistreatment of domestic workers, no one has been charged for the abuse and death of her. Neither Najwa nor Raymond Toch have faced charges. They haven't even been questioned. The kafala system continues to be one that dehumanizes several impoverished workers. So this was an intense, crazy story where we have this individual, a 17-year-old girl who didn't tell her mother she was going. Her mother found out too late. She wanted to go to collect money. After 3 months of working for the Najwa family, they didn't pay her. So when she pestered them, they got very upset. They pushed her down the stairs. They abused her. They didn't feed her. They drugged her. They continuously hit her. Didn't give her, any food. They stopped her medical treatment to the point where her legs were extremely swollen, to the point where she could not move. She was no longer mobile at the tender age of 17, and she was trapped there working for over a year and was threatened and was informed that she could never ever leave. Once only her health was being deteriorated to a whole new level, they then put her on a flight, chucked her back to Ethiopia. The kafala system didn't really help at all. The hospitals there didn't help at all. The police didn't even question what was going on at all. And what we're seeing here now is on the third day of her being in hospital, she had blood cancer. Where did this come from? Had she had received the treatment that could have taken place, had she never been enslaved, she would have been alive today. Had they just been paying her on time and treated her with well respect, she would have been alive today. The girl was only 17 years old. 17 years old. 17 years old. And she had the intention of, I'm going to go to a different country work, make my money and give it back to my parents. That is what I'm going to do. That was my intention. But instead they enslaved her, they pushed her down the stairs at times as well, apparently, and this is what's going on. And the daughter Stephanie didn't really care at all. The family had this power trip. They thought they owned you. You are my property. I now own you. You now belong to me. You now belong to me. This power trip that really, infected them. And this is something that takes place, like, this was like a lot of research for me to find this out, to find out who the family members are, to find out where the bakery is, to find out what day she went to hospital, to find out what's going on. This took me a while to do, because I feel like, nobody is talking about this on video platforms. I'm not really seeing this. And I'm also going to be discussing honor killings that take place in especially South Asia kind of regions, where they seem to be very, very brutal, the stuff that I've read. And now I'm going to start doing stuff like this as well and get into this properly and really get into this kind of journalistic information, because this is what I've always wanted to do. I've always liked, doing journalistic stuff as well, but with a psychoanalytical perspective, to find out what was going on. This girl was very young, very, very young, under the age of 18, being controlled, enslaved, put away, and she was being drugged because those pills that they were giving her were not helping her health. Her health was deteriorating and it didn't do anything. She then claimed to her mother that those pills probably worsened her health. So what were in those pills? What were in those pills? Because we need to know. 17 years old. 17 years old. 17 years old. Do you understand how ridiculously crazy that is? And I'm very glad that I have a platform now to raise awareness for things like this, because this needs to keep on happening. So by every single week or 2 weeks, I'll be bringing a new case. And now we're on the case of what happened, what really happened to Agere by the Toch family, allegedly. Let me know your thoughts are when it comes to this video. Let me know, comment down below, share the video, like the video, retweet the tweet that I put out in relation to this. We need to raise awareness so we can know what's going on. Awareness helps to bring some kind of change, I believe, and hopefully this does what it needs to do. This is a serious issue. Nothing to laugh about, nothing to mock about, nothing. This is very serious. And this is my second case, and inshallah, God willing, I'll bring future cases in relation to this, because this is very, very shocking. Let me know your thoughts are when it comes to this. Please do subscribe. Click that button for daily and consistent content. Head over to my Instagram, Murad_Morali, and I'll catch you guys soon for another video.